Now, the National Cathedral Secretariat is tonight firing back at critics who have accused them of not accounting for the entire fund paid to them by the government. According to the Secretariat, so far, an amount of 399 million cedis has been pumped into the project. This amount, they said, include an amount of 113 million cedis, which was paid directly to the consultant, Ajayi Associate and Consultancy, and 225 million cedis directly paid to the Secretariat. This was contained in the status report of the National Cathedral Secretariat delivered at the Bible Reading Marathon Thanksgiving today at the project site. There's more in this report.
The Thanksgiving service was organized to climax a 3-day Bible reading marathon, which took place from the 28th to 29th of December 2022. In his report on the status of the cathedral, the Executive Director of the National Cathedral Secretariat, Dr. Paul Opoku-Mensah, revealed that government has so far paid a total of 339 million Ghana cedis towards the construction of the project.
The total amount paid by the government of Ghana to the National Cathedral project is 339 million cedis. This total is made up of the following. 1. Amount paid directly to the National Cathedral Secretariat is 225 million. And the amount paid directly to the consultants, Ajayi Associates, the design team, is 113,040,5467. So it's literally 113,114 million. The two payments total 339,003,06486. So first, there is and there are no missing funds that could not be accounted for.
Dr. Paul Opoku-Mensah also registered the Board of Trustees' disgust at what he describes as misinterpretation of facts surrounding the project by some members of Parliament.
While a project of this nature will always have its discontents, we are nonetheless concerned about the misrepresentations, particularly when it comes from members of Parliament. For instance, the continuous misrepresentation of the contract to the consultants is worrying, as none of the amounts bandied around comes anywhere near the contract amount. Rather than 34%, that was said, we said we had paid the architect 34%, actually the contract figure is 12.5%.
President Danado also reiterated his conviction for building the National Cathedral while making a fresh donation of 100,000 Ghana cedis to aid the continuation of the work.
Since gaining our freedom and independence from the British colonial power on 6 March 1957, Ghana has so far been spared civil war, famine, and epidemics. We are certainly no better than the other nations in our neighborhood who have been confronted with these challenges. But I believe that it is by the grace of God that we have been prepared, preserved, and sustained. And I end by making a donation of 100,000 cedis to the project, and hope that the Metropolitan Archbishop is satisfied about the concentrated nature of my presentation.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Reverend Opoku Onina, is admonishing critics to seek further information about the project or simply keep quiet.
People are encouraged to actually contribute. So I think those people who do not understand it, what I do when I don't understand something is to keep quiet, then investigate, try to find out what is going on before I speak on the issue. Now, many people are talking who do not actually understand the project, and I will advise such people to keep quiet. And we have a very good culture in Ghana that is respecting one another. We will ask such people to keep quiet, not to speak against things, or especially to abuse even sometimes the elders of the land. I mean, that goes against the ethics and the culture, the various culture of Ghanaians.
The 3 days long scripture reading came to an end with a visit to the Cathedral Foundation by the President to have a first-hand view of work done so far. The National Cathedral Secretariat is urging the general public to freely send their little donations to aid the completion of the project by the end of 2024. James Kwesi Aveji's report read to you.
University of Ghana has said it has committed no illegality in the increase of fees for the 2022-2023 academic year. NUCs and other student unions have described the hike in fees by UG and other public tertiary institutions as illegal and contrary to the 15% approved by Parliament. In University of Ghana, for instance, academic fees have gone up between 30 and 40% from last year's charges. But in a statement, management explains that a 15% computation was done on the 2019 figures that it did not charge. My colleague Richard Kojo joins me on Zoom with a copy of the statement. Kojo, tell us about the defense UG put up in the statement.
The University of Ghana starts by saying that it finds it necessary to set the record straight and to correct false information being circulated about adjustments of academic facility user fees by the university for the 2022-2023 academic year. The adjustment of fees by the university, they say, is based on rates approved by Parliament and communicated through the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. And for the sake of clarity, they have outlined a number of reasons. First, they say that in the 2019-2020 academic year, public universities, including the University of Ghana, were given approval by Parliament to increase their fees by 5% cumulatively based on the 2016-2017 approved fees. And on the 27th of January 2020, the university received the approved and gazetted fees from the Ministry of Finance through the then National Commission of Tertiary Education. This was in the second semester of the 2019-2020 academic year. And after the university had already announced fees for that academic year. By this time, the university stated that it was too late for the university to implement the new fees. Now, the second point they raised is that though the gazetted approved fees for the 2019-2020 academic year were found to be higher than what the university had earlier requested students to pay for the academic year, the university management decided to suspend the implementation of the new fees until the 2020-2021 academic year. And this was to spare students from a fee increase in the middle of the 2019-2020 academic year. The third point they raised is that with the outbreak of COVID-19 in March 2020, coupled with associated challenges, management accepted a plea from the student leadership to further suspend the implementation of the parliamentary approved and gazetted fees until the 2021-2022 academic year. The fourth point, they say that in effect, therefore, the University of Ghana charged students subsidized fees for the 2019-2020, 2020-2021, and 2021-2022 academic years rather than the approved rate. The fifth point they raised is that following all the necessary internal consultations and approval by the University Council on 13 December 2022, the university announced that due to the increasing cost of operations, it had become necessary for the university to implement the 2019-2020 approved fees. The statement also noted that the fee schedules published at the time were provisional, and that amount to be paid would be updated once fees for the 2022-2023 academic year were approved by Parliament. The sixth point they raised is that on 21st December 2022, the university received a letter from GTEC dated 16 December 2022 communicating that Parliament had approved an upward review of academic fees by 15% of the last approved fees. And they state that it is important to note that the only previously approved fees were those gazetted and not the subsidized rate the university had to implement due to initially the initial one they had agreed. So to the late timing of the fee announcement in January 2022 and later by concessions, the concessions were made due to the COVID-19. And so they go further to assure parents and other stakeholders that the university has them at heart and they will not do anything to disturb them.
Okay, I'm grateful. So that's my colleague Richard Kojo there. Let's now go on Zoom again and speak to the Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Gordon Awandai. Prof, I'm grateful that you could join us. First of all, is the University of Ghana in copy of that letter from GTEC, which says specifically and categorically that the 15% increase is to be calculated on the 2021-2022 fees?
Good evening to you. Yes, we are in copy of the letter. But I believe you would realize that that part of the letter is really not accurate. So Parliament increases fees based on the last approved fees. They don't increase fees based on what you charge any specific year. If that were the case, if we were charging fees that were higher than the approved fees, then we would have increased it based on our illegally increased fees already. And that would be unreasonable. So I don't think that that statement is relevant to this discussion.
Well, but in your statement, you allude to the fact that GTEC is instructing you to implement the increment by Parliament. So it looks like you are trying to adopt part of that statement and neglect part of it, because part of it says it has to be charged on the 2020-2021 fees.
What will be the basis for that?
No. I mean, they as regulators of your sector say that you have to charge it on that fee. So you cannot say that you are accepting part of their letter which says that you need to charge the new fee, and then you say that, well, that part of their letter is not something that you're going to accept.
It is not about accepting the letter. Let's be clear. The role of GTEC here is to communicate what Parliament has done. GTEC is not determining the fee increase. GTEC is communicating what Parliament has approved. Okay? So if communicating, they state a wrong premise in their communication, we are not obliged to go by their wrong communication.
Okay,
we are bound by what Parliament has approved, and that's what we're doing.
And Parliament said the increment is based on the 2019 figure. Is that what you're saying?
It says the previously approved. In 2021, 2022, Parliament did not approve any fees. So what kind of fees are you talking about? You understand where we're coming from?
I do.
Parliament says previously approved. Can you show me any parliamentary act from last year approving any fees?
Well, the question a student will be asking is, well, the 2019 figure you're talking about was not published. So how do you know? It was
published. It's Gazette, please. It's Gazette. Please go to, if you get a copy of the act, which is published. The fees are in there. And we're using the same fees.
Okay.
The exact fees that are in there, it's not about percentages, it's about cities.
Okay. So if a student also says that, this is a period where unions are even begging government not to touch their pension funds. So in this general economic hardship, will we be fair to say that we are increasing school fees when we know that the economy is not in good times?
Well, I think that's a fair question, but it's also important to ask yourself, the universities shop from the same market that you shop from, that everybody shops from. And you know where prices have gone. So where do we expect the university to make up the gap in the prices from? That's why Parliament, in its wisdom, approved a fee increase, because they know that there's inflation generally, and they know that the universities have to cope. And that's why there was a fee increment. And so we're implementing what has been approved.
Okay. But it looks like the student body is not part of the whole process, so that there could be a buy-in. Why is that lacuna? Why is that space such that the students are not complaining because they were not part of the process from the beginning?
With all due respect, have you seen any statement from the University of Ghana students?
But NUCs, which represent all the students...
NUCs are not in the University of Ghana. They've never talked to us. NUCs have never engaged the management of the University of Ghana. I don't know where they get their numbers from, where the figures they are throwing about, where they got them from. They've never engaged us. Our SRC and all our student leaders, they engage with us. They know what we're talking about.
Okay, so for students of the University of Ghana, they have all bought into the the increment, right?
Well, they think that, like everybody else, when your fees are increased, you feel the pinch. They feel the pinch, but they do not claim that we are doing anything illegal.
Okay, all right. I'm grateful.
So let's be clear about that. You cannot have NUCs crying more than the bereaved. NUCs is not in the University of Ghana, please.
But NUCs is made up of students who are students of the University of Ghana, isn't it?
Work with facts, please. We should work with facts.
Okay, Prof. I'm grateful. Professor Gordon Awandare is Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana. Welcome back from the break. Now, the Ghana Health Service has indicated it is tightening and reviewing existing measures to avert further COVID-19 outbreaks. In a statement released by the service, it hinted it is collaborating with the Ministry of Health to monitor the country's specific measures to address the current threat of COVID-19, especially with respect to importation. Health experts say it has become crucial to get vaccinated if you haven't or if you are yet to complete the vaccination process. We'll hear from a virologist shortly, but first, How's the country's outlook? Let's share with you what the country is doing now. Now, if you look at it, the total COVID-19 vaccines administered so far is 21,400,539. That's 69.5% of the total Ghanaian population. That's a data put out by the Ghana Health Service. Again, if we are letting you understand where we do stand, persons receiving at least one dose of vaccines, we have 12,163,179 people who have received at least one dose of vaccines, representing 67.1% of the 18.2 million target. That is also 38.6% of the total Ghanaian population who have so far gotten at least one. Persons who have fully been vaccinated, we have 9,183,560, representing 50.3% of the 18.2 million target or targeted population that have to be vaccinated. That also represents 28.9% of the targeted population that needs to be vaccinated. Again, persons receiving first booster dose, we have 2,744,852 people who have received the first booster dose. So that's where we do stand as a country in terms of whatever we're doing to help curtail the spread of this virus. Well, virologist Dr. Michael Owusu says this is the right time to get vaccinated if you intend to stay safe. He spoke to my colleague, Blessed Soga, earlier on Pulse.
The variants in China are not different from what we are seeing elsewhere. These are the same and similar variants. There is only one which is called the BF7, which we have not yet recorded in Ghana. But I don't think it will change the picture even if we are to have the case in Ghana. It appears that the cases we are seeing in China seem to be circulating within unvaccinated populations who are elderly and above 60 years of age. These are people who are having severe impact of this disease. And because of their relaxation of their COVID-19 zero policy, where they are opening up and getting people to mix up. So these are people who have been naive to the virus for a prolonged period of time, and therefore they are becoming newly exposed to the virus, and this is why they are having a significant impact. So personally, I don't see that this will introduce a wave of infection in a place like Ghana, but it's too early. If the variants seem to change and we have something new happen, then of course we can make a prediction. But based on the evidence now, as we are seeing in China and many other areas, it appears the same virus circulating, and it's because of their naive population that is why they are seeing this. So I don't think we should be looking at restrictions in Ghana as we have seen before. I think that people should be encouraged to vaccinate and to be able to promote and encourage a point where people will be more immune, so that in case we have some of the BF7 enter the country, we wouldn't have significant impact like we are seeing in many other countries.
Now, relatedly, if you are traveling into Ghana from China, then be prepared to present a valid negative COVID-19 PCR test result before being allowed into the country. That's according to the Ghana Airport Company as it tightens measures to reduce the spread of COVID-19 virus. This was contained in a statement released earlier on new guidelines to be implemented at the Kotoka International Airport. Now, let's give you the full details of the statement. It says, now, this is for travelers intending to enter Ghana. All persons arriving in Ghana who are fully vaccinated will be exempted from any form of testing done either prior to boarding from originating country or on arrival in Ghana, except passengers originating their journey from China. Now, passengers originating their journey from China will be required to present a valid negative COVID-19 PCR test result 48 hours prior to departure from our originating country, that's China. Says passengers undergo mandatory COVID-19 testing on arrival at the Kotoka International Airport at no cost. Now, still on the measures that have been put out by the Ghana Airport Company, it says all other passengers originating their journey from elsewhere other than China who are partially vaccinated or unvaccinated will be required to present a valid negative COVID-19 PCR test result 48 hours prior to departure from originating country. Such passengers will be required to undergo mandatory COVID-19 testing on arrival at the Kotoka International Airport at no cost. Airlines that bring passengers to Kotoka International Airport who are not fully vaccinated or passengers originating their journey from China without a valid negative COVID-19 PCR test result 48 hours prior to departure would be surcharged $3,500. So that's for airlines that will be bringing in passengers who are not vaccinated from China. Now, for people who are only transiting through Ghana, those passengers and who are transferring through Kotoka International Airport will be required to fully adhere to COVID-19 testing requirement at the destination countries. So that's for people who will be moving through, Kotoka, not necessarily entering the country. So now there are exemptions. Children less than 18 years of age are exempt from mandatory vaccination, pre-departure, 2 PCR testing and testing on arrival in Ghana. Passengers who arrive under emergency circumstances, such as diverted flight, will not be required to undergo testing if they do not leave the airport or remain in isolation in their hotel. So that's the exemptions there. Now, what about wearing of nose masks? It says wearing of nose mask is recommended in all airport terminals and ancillary buildings. So that's from the Ghana Airport Company. Again, they continue to talk about vaccination. All passengers must present a valid COVID-19 vaccination certificate showing that they were fully vaccinated at least 14 days before embarkation, except partially vaccinated or unvaccinated Ghanaians who are required to present a negative 48 hours PCR test result to the airline before embarkation and to Port Health upon arrival. So when is this whole thing or these requirements going to begin? The effective date is 6th January 2023 at 12 o'clock a.m. So that's when these will begin. Now, meanwhile, a member of the Health Committee of Parliament, Charles Agbeve, has applauded the Ghana Airport Company for swift action it has implemented.
When disease strikes, pandemic strikes, it doesn't know diplomacy. Let me just go to the layman's street language. What does diplomacy got to do with the pandemic spreading into your country? We are not in the position to allow our economy to go into the kind of crisis we've been into. We cannot afford it. Listen, look, I'm happy and extremely happy the Ghana Health Service has been very proactive in taking this decision. I was talking to Dr. Bequin, the Public Health Director at the Ghana Health Service. He and the DG, the Director General, are at the airport today. Today, second. They are there making sure that what you just read as the new policy guidelines or directives to passengers are being implemented fully. And what I'm even more excited about is something we've all been talking about, that the Ghana Health Service should take over the testing of passengers at the Ghana airports. Gradually, they are moving towards that direction. And that is why it is free. But I'm very excited that these particular proactive measures have been put in place because what is happening in China, when you monitor, almost all countries are actually asking passengers coming from China, before you enter, you must do the testing or you will quarantine. I've seen Australia pass that policy statement. I've seen the European Union, even before Sweden takes over the European Union presidency, is tabling something on that already. And so it's become an international issue. And so Ghana cannot take the chances.
Now, earlier, some Ghanaians who spoke to JoyNews pleaded with the government to put in place measures to prevent the virus from springing up in the nation after China lifted all restrictions related to COVID-19.
What I think is the government should be able to track all those that are gone outside to import goods. You should be able to track them. Those going to China, those going to other countries. So whilst he's tracking them, the countries that the sickness or the virus is prone to, you should try as much as possible and put them in control. And when they are back, they should still quarantine those people. You should really track them. If the government doesn't have a system that is tracking people that have gone outside to import goods, then I don't think the government is doing a better job. So that's what I think they should do, so that all these people will be in check. Then they don't continue spreading the virus in Ghana.
Okay, well, what I can say is that since there's COVID-19 in the system again, the government have to do restriction like the nose mask have it compulsory once again, and the vaccination at the airport have to retake again. So anyone coming from China, if goes, they have to go through the protocol and the way it will already be done at the airport. So the government have to do a lot of restriction, like nose mask have to be compulsory once again, and at the airport, and everyone have to be vaccinated in and out. So that's what I can say about it. Thank you very much.
People going from China to go and get us some goods, I think the COVID-19 need to be prevented even before coming to Ghana. If they need to be secure themselves over there, if even it has to take the government more times to even quarantine them. Say you have to do that because we don't need it again here. It's over and over in Africa with the quarantine and with COVID. We are over, so we don't need them. When they are coming, we are praying that the government should make sure it will prevent them and quarantine them for some time. We don't need it here again. We have already given quarantine a bye-bye. We don't need it in Ghana. So we are begging we are appealing to the government to take good care of those who that they are coming from the outside, those that are coming from China. Government need to secure them, quarantine them, make sure they are okay before coming to even the Agus. The government need to take care of it before.
Okay. So as we all know, these days how the corona has once again lifted at the China. Ghanaians, what we have to do or what the government have to do to prevent this very corona issue, because when it came, everybody suffered, especially Ghana. We suffered a lot, and it's still, we all know, we've still even not recovered from the hardship and a whole lot of things we went through. So since this thing has started again in China, the best thing for me, government have to do, if possible, the goods that the traders have been going to bring from China, if the government can do anything, especially bringing it for them, so that they will not go there and contact the sickness. So it will be better. And if people still, because I know Ghanaians, a lot of people too, still, they will insist, they wanted to go by themselves. So if they are going to, they need to take the measures serious, like to be prevented. So they should be very careful in extra by putting on their noses, washing their hands as we used to do before.
So those are the thoughts of some Ghanaians on what government needs to do to ensure that COVID-19 is kept under check.